The chalice and do our opening reading. So I have my real chalice today. As I light the chalice, I have words from the late Denny Davidoff, who's one of my favorite lay leaders of all time. And this reading is from Bless the Imperfect, which is Meditations for Congregational Leaders. And this is called How to Be a UU Leader. 1, breathe deeply. 2, relinquish control. 3, learn to pray. 4, play fair. 5, temper narcissism.
Yeah.
6, read poetry.
Yep. Okay, terrific.
7, internalize patience. 8, listen intently. 9, admit errors. And 10, breathe deeply.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you here again for our Build a Better Board webinar series, which is companioning the online materials that we have. And we have a few bonus materials that we're going to share today, so I'm very excited about that. And I'm going to turn it over to Pat.
Yeah, we're going to take just a couple minutes to do some introductions. I think we're a small enough group that we can do introductions. If you want to unmute and introduce yourself, name, your congregation, and what do you love about your congregation? Tell us one thing you really love about the congregation that you're representing. If you'd prefer to write in the chat, that would be wonderful. You can do that as well. But Laura, you're unmuted. Would you like to start us off?
Sure. My name's Laura Wink, as you can see on my little box here, my little Brady Bunch box. And I'm in Canandaigua, New York, which is near Rochester. The board president this year, and what I like about my church is it's set in the country, and you can see the leaves on the trees right outside the windows, and I just love that about our church building and our congregation. It kind of reflects our values.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anybody else raring to go? Al, you're not muted, so how about you?
Sure.
And I put in the chat box, by the way, the name, congregation, and what do you like?
Yeah, so I'm Al Roque. I'm with I'll give you the full name, the Congregational Unitarian Universalist Congregation at White Plains, CUC for short. And I'm the board chair this year. And I like the fact that we all like to eat. Brunches are a big part of our worship.
That is something many UU congregations do well. They do food. Part of that building community. Vonna, would you like to?
Sure. Ivana Heaton, again, from River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Bethesda, Maryland. And our senior minister is Reverend Nancy McDonald-Ladd. I am a first-year board member, so one of the 4 new members of the board. I like about our congregation that we push the envelope in many ways. We were among, I think, at least to my knowledge, we were among the first to post a Black Lives Matter sign. We've been holding vigils every Friday, 12 months a year, for the last 5 years, actually, since Michael Brown was killed. And we've started just so many wonderful conversations about race, and we have a dedicated, committed board, people who are passionate about the work overall. The congregation, I think we soar. So that's my thought.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's see, who else? Blaine, would you like to check in with us?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, Kent, Ohio, Kent Unitarian Universalist Church in Kent. And I guess what I'm liking about our church is they're very open to do things. And quite often it's with a great passion. Art and music seem to be quite expansive in the church, and also my daughter's 15 now. She just turned 15 and is very much liking the OWL program.
Oh, super.
And it frees me up. And I'm learning a lot too from the OWL program.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits is parents learn stuff too. That's great. Thank you. Let's see. Amy, would you like to say hi?
Sure. I'm Amy Shepard. This is my first year on the board as well at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington, Virginia. What I like about our church is that it has a deep history and a lot of really interesting, accomplished people that do a lot of things. So we have a lot of different things going on, which makes it for a very interesting place to be, but also a lot of challenges to kind of, find a unified path when so many diverse, opinionated people have so many different interests.
Yes, that is a great observation. Thank you. Let's see. How about Nikki?
Hi, I'm Nikki Willard. I'm the president of the UU Fellowship of Huntington. And what I love about our congregation is how much we care for each other, our ability, our pastoral care. When people need help, they get it. And I think that goes out to the outside world as well.
Yeah, it ripples out. That's wonderful. Thank you. Suzanne?
Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Royer from the Towson Unitarian Universalist Church in Lutherville, Maryland, which is a suburb of Baltimore. I am in my second year as president-elect, and then, assuming the congregation votes, will move to president at the end of this church year. And what I love about my church is that we revamped our mission statement a couple of years ago. We had a number of cafes and appreciative inquiries and lots of different tools to do that. And now our mission statement is very much aligned with racial, social, environmental justice, which energizes the congregation. And it's great to have our mission statement be up to date and really meaningful.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to go on your website, check out your mission statement. I'm intrigued. Yeah. Super. Let's see. We have Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria Warburton. I'm in my second year as president at Cedarhurst Unitarian Universalist in Finksburg, Maryland. We're just Unitarian. We don't have a church or congregation because apparently 35 years ago people couldn't decide on what to call it, so they didn't call it anything. And I guess one thing I like is just how close knit everyone is and support each other. I mean, you may not talk to somebody for a month or two, but you can call on somebody if you if you need help. We actually have lost 3 founding members this past year, and so since January.
Sorry to hear that.
And yeah, so it's been everybody has kind of leaned on each other during this time. So.
Wow. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Cynthia. Have we heard from Cynthia?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes, this is Cynthia from the First Unitarian Church in Baltimore.
Oh, super. I was just there.
Oh, great. So you've seen our beautiful 200-year-old building.
I certainly have. Catherine gave a little tour. Catherine Evans gave a little tour.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was there for Becky Brooks's book signing.
Oh, great. Yeah, that was an exciting event for us. And this is my first year on the board. And what I'm most excited that's going on in the church right now is our workshops in compassionate communication. And we're learning really how to speak to each other in understanding ways and encourage open dialogue, which we feel is so important to maintain membership and good relations.
Wonderful. That's great. Good. I think I got everyone. Let's see. Well, Renee and I probably need to introduce ourselves. I'll introduce myself and then turn it over to Renee. I am Pat or Patricia Infanti. I'm part of the Central East Regional staff, and we work with the primary contact model, and I hope that you know who your primary contact is. For those of you in the Baltimore area, it's Paula Cole-Jones. I have Philadelphia and New York City, and for those of you in DC, it's Megan Foley. So we're spread around, but we have our congregations that we love too. So glad to be here. Renee?
Amy Shep has just joined us. Hi, Amy, welcome. We had everybody introduce themselves and their congregation and one thing you love about your home congregation.
So I just went, I was on the phone, and so now I'm on the video too.
Got it, okay, I'm with you. You went, okay, yes. Oh, Amy Shepherd, Amy Shep, I get it. All right. Awesome.
I'm not trying to make this hard, but.
No, it's all right, that's all right.
Okay.
I'm a morning person, so these evening webinars are a little bit rough on me, but anyway, welcome again. So I'm Renee Rahutsky. My home congregation is also in Kent, Ohio, where Blaine Vesley is, and we do have a rock and music program. It's one of my favorite things there. And I can walk to church, which is really awesome as well. So today we're going to review the two modules on the board training. And just a second, I'm going to share my screen. For just as a reminder, the congregational board training is in Leader Lab. It's ua.org/leadership. And there are 12 modules. And so these webinars are connect to each of 2 modules. So this is the modules 3 and 4. 3, finding your center. Actually, let me just share my screen here a quick second. Because I know a couple of you just joined recently. So this is on, let me go back one. This is Leader Lab, ua.org/leadership. And then there's the board member training. I have to warn you, we're gonna be changing this up. So bookmark the board training, because we're gonna be moving things around a little bit. And so today we're going to be talking about boards as spiritual leaders, talking about finding your own center, spiritual grounding as a leader, and also knowing your own purpose, leading in alignment with mission. So that's the theme for today. And I will.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have a couple of folks maybe who weren't here last time. So just in terms of the technology. Just a reminder that all the way at the bottom of your screen, if you scroll down, a little bar will pop up that has a place all the way on the left to mute. And if you're not talking, or if there's background noise, like that. It's a great, muting's a great thing to have. There's also a chat box, and some folks have already shared stuff in the chat box. So if you haven't opened that up yet, just click on that, and it'll open up to the right of your gallery view. And we do have a hand raising feature, which if you go onto your own square, your own little Brady Bunch square, do we have? I'm
not seeing it today. I'm not seeing
it
here.
I'm not seeing the hand raising. Okay.
Okay, we might be in the wrong mode.
We're a small enough group that you can get our attention. All right. So I hope everybody, if you have any questions about the technology, just pop us a note in the chat. We'll work with you. All right. On to the good stuff.
Excellent. So,
we're going to start with the spiritual practice question.
Yeah.
So, one of the things some of you may or may not have had a chance to look at the resource materials. But one of the things that we feel is really important to developing good relationships and just developing sort of a good environment and ambiance to your board is to share spiritual practice. Spiritual practice can be, Renee modeled for us a little reading out of one of our little meditation guides. There are other ways that boards and committees and groups gathering can have a little bit of shared sacred time or shared spiritual practice. So we just wanted to invite each of you, if you do have a spiritual practice that you're doing with your board, just to make a quick note in the chat, and we'll kind of share that amongst ourselves. Give you a minute to do that. Give you some practice with the chat box. So what's your spiritual practice? Hi, Wayne. Central Delaware in the house.
Hi.
How are you? Welcome.
Good, good. Nice to be here.
Yeah, we did a quick introduction before, Wayne. Do you want to just share your name, the congregation you're from, and one thing you love about your congregation?
I'm Wayne Kling from the Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware in the state capital of Delaware, Dover. What I like? Well, we have a new minister and we're very excited about the new directions we're taking.
Fabulous. That's wonderful. Glad you're here. So, Maria says we start board meetings with a chalice lighting, reading, and 10 minutes or so of checking in. Now we open and close with words chosen by one of the board members. I love that. So a way to invite folks to share, to choose the words as well as speak them. Amy says we light a chalice. Sometimes we forget. And we have a reflective reading and then some personal reflection or a check-in of some kind, some sharing. Vonna says the board doesn't have one, but they start reading the board covenant. Wonderful. And then personal check-ins. Dan says same as Maria. And Nikki, I open every meeting with a chalice lighting and a spiritual reading. We have a closing reading when we extinguish the chalice. Wonderful. So some good practices there. That's super. Lane says Kent's similar. Did I miss anybody? Oh, I missed Laura. You see Canandaigua recites our board covenant and the goals, and then light a chalice and read have a spiritual. Oh, Vana, spiritual practice is mindful cooking. Who's got a board covenant? We have, looks like most of us have a board covenant. We'll check in with you, Maria, on that. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for good sharing. Did I miss any more? Cynthia says we start the meeting with a chalice lighting and a reading, and we close with a song. Oh, that's great. All right. Nice.
So if you've gotten to the materials in the board leadership as a spiritual practice section, there was a series, some videos by Eric Walker Wickstrom. He wrote a book on leadership as a spiritual practice, and he recorded a bunch of videos. So we share some of those as one of the resources. So some boards have used those and shared them, like showed one video at the beginning of a board meeting to meditate on the minutes, or like wait to see if your idea comes out of someone else's mouth. There's a lot of different things that he suggests as ways to approach your leadership as a spiritual practice. So I am going to share another video. This is a video that is from, we have some online courses. You'll be, we're mixing or shifting them a little bit. We used to offer them by semester, and we're going to be offering them on demand probably within the next couple of weeks. But this is in the course Strategic Leadership, which if you loved the board resource, these free board resources, this is a course that has a couple of the resources that was shared with you, but it also has a bunch of other additional resources for boards and strategic planning committees and things. And this video comes out of that course. So I'm going to share this with you. Let's see, just give me a second here because it's a little tricky to share with sound and everything. All right.
Today, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the 5th Circle of Trust touchstone, which is no fixing, saving, advising, or correcting. I don't know about you, but this is really hard for me. Somehow I think my best help is given when I fix, save, advise, or correct. And unfortunately, it's actually a fairly annoying habit that pushes people farther away instead of bringing them closer together. Parker Palmer explains, this is one of the hardest guidelines for those of us who like to help, but it is vital to welcoming the soul, to making space for the inner teacher. That is, no fixing, saving, advising, or correcting. The journalist, Celeste Headley, who I've mentioned before, notes that with social media, Americans talk more than ever, but we are talking at one another, not to one another, and that there is an enormous gap between the at and the to. Fixing, saving, advising, and correcting are all ways that we talk at one another, don't fully listen, and are not patient with what we hear. Consider you're the president of a board, and the board is discussing perhaps an adaptive issue. It's a tricky one, it's complicated. You have a member on the board named Ruby who doesn't often speak, and when she does, it's usually pretty important. So the board discusses a difficult issue for 10 minutes, and finally Ruby raises her hand and says, you know, I'm just not prepared to vote. I don't think I have enough information. As soon as she says that, 3 other board members jump in to say, I think you're wrong. We need to take a vote right now. So what do you do as a board president? And think about what just happened. Ruby had something to say. I don't think she didn't know what she was saying when she said, I'm not ready to vote yet now. Yet 3 other people immediately jumped in to fix, save, advise, correct her. No, Ruby, you don't need to know more. Stop, let's vote. An anxious board would just move right ahead with that vote. I think a healthier board might pause, and a leader on that board could ask an open and honest question to Ruby, such as, Ruby, what more information would you need in order to vote? That question, which is open and honest and does not fix, save, advise, or correct, leads the group into deeper conversation, relationship, and dialogue. And imagine the wisdom that could get lost if Ruby's question was just shut down and the board plowed ahead with their business. Think also about how Ruby might feel. If she spends a half hour thinking about what she really thinks on an issue and immediately gets corrected or advised, told to shut down, she's going to be less likely to participate in the future, less likely to share her wisdom, and then what would be lost? Remember, Peter Steinke shared with us in an earlier module this quote, you must tolerate pain in yourself and others. 3 board members are in so much pain, they just want to shut Ruby down and move on. A healthier board, though, says, yeah, okay, they're uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. I'm going to ask more to know more, and I'm not going to participate in fixing, saving, advising, or correcting. And I need to also say, you know, if anyone finds fixing, saving, advising, correcting annoying, it's Unitarian Universalists. We don't really enjoy it. I'm sad to say, though, a lot of us tend to do it a little bit too often. The next time you are then tempted to fix, save, advise, or correct, pay attention to the situation. What's happening? How are you feeling? Why do you think fixing, saving, advising, or correcting someone would be helpful at this moment? Instead of offering advice, try something different. Say, that sounds hard, right? That could be an affirmation. Affirmations draw us closer. Try something else. If someone shares something with you, say, well, what are you thinking or doing? Or why do you care, right? These are open and honest questions. You didn't fix, save, advise, correct. You didn't shut down someone. You aren't trying to push away conflict. You're trying to develop deeper understanding and awareness by listening closely. I would say that leaders take us into these conversations where there are questions without always answers. And remember, we talked about adaptive issues. There aren't always immediate answers or one answer or an obvious answer. We need to talk to one another instead of at one another to get where we're going. It takes courage, patience, and willpower not to fix, save, advise, or correct. It takes courage to sit with someone else and listen without knowing where that conversation for sure is going. It takes courage to not have an answer and continue to walk together. Of course, I have some questions for you. Number one, what are two things you took away from this video? What are two things you took away from this video? Number two, what happened the last time you listened to someone who disagreed with you without trying to change their mind, without trying to fix, save, advise, or correct? What happened the last time you listened to someone who disagreed with you without trying to change their mind? And number three, what would it be like for you to just listen the next time someone told you about a problem without fixing, saving, advising, or correcting? What would it be like for you to just listen the next time someone told you about a problem without fixing, saving, advising, or correcting?
So we posted a couple of the questions that that the Reverend Sharon Ditmore just posed at the end of that wonderful video, and we're going to take a few minutes just to kind of open up the floor and do some sharing around these questions. What happened the last time you listened to someone who disagreed with you without trying to change their mind? You can unmute, or you can type in the chat box if you have some thoughts to share.
This is Vanna from River Road. The last time I tried and actually moderately succeeded in not advising, fixing, correcting, or saving was in a conversation with my husband where I had a different opinion than he did about something. And the struggle that I had was to pull back from correcting him without disconnecting emotionally. That was my struggle, because it takes some emotional distance for me to pull back from fixing, saving, advising, or correcting. And so to stay in partnership with him without correcting, advising, fixing, or saving was the bigger challenge. And it felt like I didn't care about him. When of course I did. I didn't like what he was saying. It was a political thing. So that's where my struggle is just staying connected in love.
Thank you. Amy?
So I think the last time I listened to someone who disagreed with me without trying to change their mind, I think what I noticed is the change in myself, in that I'm much less anxious. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I don't have like an agenda of like what I need to accomplish or what needs to happen in this conversation, which creates anxiety to make sure that I'm saying the right thing or I'm getting to where I want to go. And the flip side of that, though, in the board context for me, is that it makes me very uncomfortable to think about a board meeting where we were really in this space, because we struggle sometimes with getting things done. And I feel like it could be a conversational loop that just exacerbates what I already see as a struggle that we have in terms of a lot of conversation around things, but kind of a hesitancy to, like, you know, really move forward and just put something into place. So that's the tension that creates for me personally.
Thank you. Laura Wink wrote in the chat, I find waiting for someone to speak their mind sometimes allows for the speaker to find the truth at the bottom of their message. So some of us are external processors, right, that need that extra ability to figure stuff out. Or I know myself, sometimes I find I dig myself a hole. It's like, oh, maybe I really don't believe what I just said. Suzanne?
Yeah, hi, this is Sue. We're going through policy governance change at our church, and we've been allocating time at most board meetings to discuss aspects of governance policy, and at a topic level, not at a word by word level, and get input from each other on how we feel about it. And I feel like as a board, we've been doing a pretty good job of listening to each other and not trying to fix, save, correct, whatever that list was. Where I personally struggle is if we're not in the period of time where we're discussing kind of a more open topic like that, but we're really trying to, kind of sum up what we've already discussed on a different topic where, like the last speaker said, we need to move ahead and make a decision. Sometimes it's hard when you feel like maybe most of the group's coming to a consensus. And I do appreciate where if there's a person like in that example who doesn't speak up as often, that you really want to hear their voice and honor their voice and give them that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. George, welcome George, said that I have found this can be difficult to do when the person with whom you are speaking are pressing you to fix something. So if you feel like some coercion's happening from the other person, it might be a little bit harder. And Blaine says, I find with especially my daughter that I have to let her talk without me fixing the situation. Although I admit fixing the situation is always going through my mind. Times are definitely different these days. Excellent. Nikki.
Yeah, I can't think of specific incidents, but I find a lot of times I kind of hear what Amy was saying about feeling anxious when you know somebody disagrees, but sometimes when you listen, you realize that you're not looking at it from their point of view, and to see it from their point of view, you can understand better. It's hard sometimes, though, when you're having all those different feelings to not really, I guess it was Stephen Covey who said we don't listen to understand, we listen just to speak. You know, we're waiting for the person to finish so we can speak. We're not really listening. And so I've become more aware of that, and I try to do it. I'm sometimes good at it, sometimes not.
Excellent.
So I think sometimes because we're a pretty small congregation, and the save one can be an issue because people come with, like, they have a issue with something, for instance, our kitchen area. We have somebody that recently retired and has some time, has revamped our Green Sanctuary Committee that's been kind of languishing for a few years. And so went through and took out all the styrofoam and all the plasticware that accumulated the last year or two. And there's a couple people very upset about it coming to me, you know, and I just, you know, have to let them talk and then explain, you know, the specifics of what's happening, but, or direct them directly to the other person. But I think with a small congregation, sometimes, you know, I guess what they call that triangulation, where they come to you and try to have you be the savior, so they don't have to, you know, deal directly with it. And then as far as the board, we actually kind of have an issue where one board member is very vocal and almost shuts down everybody else on the board a lot of times. So I really have to work to make sure everybody else gets a chance to speak.
Yeah, I think that there's ways that we can have processes to make space for everyone to speak. So, you know, going around the circle and asking everyone to share enables us to listen more deeply to folks, to everyone, and not just the one person. And the whole idea of asking everyone, if you tend to share, why don't you wait until share, like that. There's the one Eric Walker Wickstrom video where he talks, hold your tongue, I think is the spiritual practice. That might be, you know, that's something we can invite people into to develop their own self-awareness. And I think part of leadership as a spiritual practice is how we grow through leadership, right? I learned so much when I was the moderator of my congregation. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about human nature and how people operate in groups and stuff, and it really helped me to become a better person. So in some ways, that's the gift we can give one another as leaders, is to have our leadership help to have us grow as humans. So I think that's one reason, you know, we love doing this work, is because we love seeing UU leaders grow into, you know, even more glorious humans. It's part of the joys of our work, right, Pat?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So let's shift into mission, I think. Does that sound good?
Wonderful.
And I think you were going to share the next question, and then I'll share another video.
Yeah, so I'm not sure you know, how many congregations have a recent mission or a mission statement, or have a sense of you know, why you're there and what the work is. But if you have a mission, the question we have for you is, how does mission inform us? How does having a mission help us as leaders during times of anxiety? And I think I don't specifically know about some of your congregations. I do specifically know about a couple, but we're in a time of high anxiety in our country, and in many of our congregations, anxiety around change, around declining membership, around volunteerism, sometimes around stewardship. And so, you know, how does mission help us in our role as leaders? Or does it?
Did you want us to speak or type in the chat, or either?
Yeah, you can speak, you can chat, whatever you're most comfortable doing.
So this is Sue. I'll mention. I mentioned mission already at the beginning when I talked about what do I love most about my church. I think that because our mission is focused on, let's see, it's up here on my wall too, to deepen our ethical and spiritual lives together as we work for racial, social, and environmental justice. I'm really committed to that mission. I think the majority of active members of our church are really committed to it. And so it just helps to keep us grounded, even as we are in stressful times.
That's great. Thank you. Blaine says it's sort of a remember who we are and who we say we are endeavoring to be. And so that's, I think, along the same vein as that sense of groundedness as leaders. Vana says mission provides a guide for forming strategies. A bit of that North Star roadmap sense. Laura says similar to covenant, mission helps direct and guide our interactions, community identity, and decision making. Yeah, decision making. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a very important point. One of the things sometimes boards do struggle around is how do we make decisions? What's our process, and when do we know that we've talked enough about it? When do we feel like we are? What gives us that sense that we're ready to make a final decision? Some boards can feel a little bit of anxiety around. Okay, this is what we're going to do, particularly a larger decision, and the mission really helps to kind of create a boundary for those conversations and help decision making be less stressful. Nikki says our vision reminds us to care for each other and in the process help to heal the world. Amen. Cynthia says one line in our mission statement is celebrating diversity. This commitment led a group to form to train church members in compassionate communication to facilitate a welcoming community for a diverse population. So the mission statement led to action, which is helping us to develop our skills as leaders and develop new leaders in the congregation.
So I have an example.
Yep.
Our church recently, not that recently, like 2 years ago, went through a very anxious time. We had issues with our minister, and I don't think we had a mission statement that really connected to people. And as a result, it was almost like the thing that was creating anxiety was like this black hole, and all we could do was focus on that thing. So it just sucked all of our attention and energy, and we didn't have that North Star to say, wait a second, let's hook to this as we go through this experience. We were completely consumed by this thing. And so I think that's a really important tool in times of anxiety. It's almost like, it's not that it's a distraction, but it kind of is, but just to have something else to hold on to besides the thing that's making you anxious.
Right.
That's an excellent example.
It is.
We it's funny, Pat's been doing this work longer than I have, but it's been about 10 years, and we really were pushing congregations to have mission statements and to use mission as guides, and the fruits are amazing. Our congregations have so much more focus. I was reflecting on that as you all were checking in about how much you loved your congregation and the things you were describing. It's like, wow, this is great. I think church done well saves lives, and anyway, I just love hearing that. So
yeah.
Should we shift into our next little bit here? I have another this is a little bit shorter video I want to share with a little bit of a provocative thing about mission. So let me go ahead and oops.
Joanna Crawford always starts. When talking about missional congregations, my colleague, Reverend Joanna Crawford, always starts with a true story from Alan Hirsch about the Zenith Drilling Company, which made drill bits. For a long time, they were the leader in their industry, but their competitors were starting to catch up. So they hired a new CEO and brought together all their leaders for a 3-day crisis conference to figure out what their mission was. After 3 days, they came together and said, it's not enough to make drill bits. Their mission was to make the best drill bits in the world. For the first time, the new CEO came to the microphone and said, "No, our mission is not to make the best drill bits in the world. Our mission is to make the best holes in the world." By doing that, they were able to focus on what their real mission was. It wasn't the tool, it was the end result. And they became a leader in their industry once again, expanding their businesses from drill bits to laser drilling and beyond. A lot of the time, what we focus on is making the best churches in the world. There's nothing wrong with that. But our mission is not to make the best churches or congregations in the world. It is to make wholeness in the world. The world is broken and we are living in very polarizing times. I don't know about you, but I am guessing that you're like me and believe that the world would be a better place if there were more Unitarian Universalists in it. Believe that our faith helps create the wholeness that we are looking for by welcoming people's whole selves. We save lives. The shift from contemporary church to missional church is a shift from making the best congregations to helping to create wholeness. So how does this happen? Well, to understand missional church, first it helps to understand how churches do things now. Right now, worship is usually the foundation of a congregation. The staff and ministry teams work together to create the best worship they possibly can. Other committees and ministries participate and feed into the worship life. The goal is to get everyone to come to church on Sunday. We count how many people come to worship on Sunday, and if that number is growing, we feel successful. The idea is that if we invite people to worship, they'll enjoy it and get involved in other aspects of the church, and then maybe they'll serve on leadership. In business terms, we start with the question of what, the goal, what we want. And then we ask how. And if we're lucky, we get to why. Missional church turns this on its head. Instead, we start with the question, why? Why do we exist as a congregation? Why do we exist in this particular community? It starts with mission and then moves toward how to marshal the resources to achieve that mission. What sort of faith development is necessary? What sort of leadership training? How do people live this mission in their day-to-day lives? And only then do we move to the question of, well, what does it look like? What sort of programming do we do? What sort of small groups or worship? The core, the center of missional church is always the mission. Why do we exist? How do we transform lives? What do we need to make that possible? Rather than focusing on how many people attend on Sunday morning, a missional church focuses on how they are touching lives. It is a church that is alive, vital, and relevant in the community.
All right. That was Dawn Cooley, one of our colleagues who lives in Louisville, Kentucky.
Right. So what would a UU version of a missional church? Missional church comes out of some other non-Unitarian Universalist traditions, but a number of our ministers and our congregations have taken the core of it and used it to create their own missional sensibility. So what might that look like for you? Nikki.
Well, it's kind of interesting because we're working right now for to come up with a theme for our pledge campaign, and we want, of course, we want to grow in numbers. We've had a lot of elderly people die. We want to bring in young families, but instead of looking at it that way, I think we're trying to figure out how to look at it in terms of our mission and what we really want to do. How do we want to collaborate with other groups of people and just become known in the community a little better for who we really are? So that's what we're kind of thinking about right now.
That's great. Yeah, trying to put mission at the center of what we do.
Right. And vision.
Any other thoughts about mission?
So Cedarhurst is a small congregation in a very red county in a blue state, but in Maryland. But so I think part of our, and I must be honest here, I'm not very good at, we probably need a new mission, and it's not something that I'm excited about tackling, so I've kind of not done that. But I think we've always had a sense of why, like we're here as kind of an alternative to all the other very conservative congregations, you know, in the county. And we have worked a lot with, there's a United Church of Christ congregation in Westminster, in a town that's about, we kind of serve two areas, Western Baltimore County and then all of Carroll County. And so we have tried to do a lot of interfaith things, and then things like volunteering at the cold weather shelter and such, just to, you know, make ourselves known. And there are people that just help with those things and don't come to service, you know, but they just help out with those type of things. We've gotten a little bit of, there's like one group that wants to, you know, that has been doing the cold weather shelter and things that are very, you know, one time in the moment fixes versus working on systemic changes. Like there's another group that's involved with the Poor People's Campaign, if you've heard of that, and trying to make, you know, systemic changes. So we're starting to get spread a little thin, I think, but yeah, anyway, I'll let somebody else talk.
Thank you. Laura, I saw your hand up a minute ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that I really liked how she turned the mission kind of away from how do we get more people into who are we in the world. I hear often in my church that, you know, we're small and we're getting smaller, and how are we going to attract people? And I think that we've sort of lost our way about, well, why? What is it? Instead of, you know, kind of having the commercial of, you know, come to our church, and that sort of fear-based decision-making about how are we going to keep people or attract people, I like the idea of revisiting who we are, like why are we doing what we're doing? And then we will be attracting those people that we want to have, not just anybody. We don't just want, you know, anybody who's walking down the street to come into our church. We want people who have similar values and similar interests and similar drives. So I think revisiting that, I think that will be helpful, those conversations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely follow that with an amen, because we're in the exact same position where people are so fear-based about the numbers. And it's interesting because we're not a diverse church in terms of ethnic representation. And we just had a seminar on undoing white supremacy. And one thing that the moderator said is that people will leave, right? Like if you do this and you really have these conversations, people will leave, and you have to get okay with that. And so to me, a mission-focused church is not based out of fear, but recognizing that like quality over quantity is really where you want your focus to be.
Excellent. Thank you. One of the, as I was listening to this again, I was thinking about our youth leadership school. It used to be called Goldmine, and it's now called River Rising. And have any of you heard of it? So Shannon Harper, who's our amazing youth specialist, so Goldmine, it's an extraction industry, right? I mean, you think about it, it's like, what are we signaling with the word gold mine? And so Shannon, so Shannon thought about our youth. What are our youth going to need going forward? And with climate change and everything else, they need to build resilience. And so the River Rising is really based on helping our youth connect to nature and develop a sense of resilience and self-sufficiency and in this holistic sort of way. So, you know, taking this idea of being missional, of what's, you know, we're we're creating holes, right? We're not making drill bits. So we want to have resilient youth. We're not creating leaders or developing leaders. We're developing youth who have qualities of leadership, but it's really other things that they're trying to develop, which I think, you know, just did it really beautifully, and the youth are responding to it, and religious educators and other adults are like, can't you do a version for us?
Yeah, well, we're going to do that this summer at our RE Week in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. We're going to do a River Rising for religious educators.
Yeah.
Cynthia says if a church has a clear message and identity, people will be attracted to this and come to services out of a desire to participate. And I think I've seen that in other congregations, where when we're pretty clear about who we are and what our values are, and how we move out into the world, how we take our message out into the world, I think that does create some sense of connection and some energy that can bring people and hold people in our community.
Carrie McDonald, who's our CEO or vice president, anyway, he's right. CEO, Chief Operating Officer. Anyway, I was looking through some old blog posts, and he had this phrase, "Join our cause, not our club."
Yes.
So I thought that was a great way of framing that. So I need to let my cat out, so just give me a second. She's scratching at my door.
So is there anybody who's struggled around mission, the idea of mission, sort of getting people to take ownership or to buy into the idea that mission is what energizes us, as opposed to, coming on Sunday to see all our good friends? So anybody who's found that there's a challenge there in thinking missionally? You can write in the chat if you have some thoughts.
I think we've struggled with that the last couple years. So there's one, and I guess we struggle between, the board kind of taking ownership of the mission and letting committees be autonomous and things. And our one committee that used to be the membership committee, it's now the congregational life. But it seems like they have felt like the last couple of years and one of the reasons they were doing it was to try to get the numbers up. So they're offering like craft classes and these daytimer things to quilt factory tours and the potato chip factory up in across the line, and then just last night there was and they don't run these by the board or anything because you want them to be autonomous, but they had a Thanksgiving Day, a history of the first Thanksgiving and beyond on the different foods that have been served. It was a history person that came and did it, but I'd say about a third of the congregation felt like it was an inappropriate topic. And their argument was, well, we're advertising it, we're getting people in, we're letting people know we're here, but it has nothing to do with our mission. And so how do you not fix, save, advise, or correct, but change their outlook?
That's the challenge.
We get to have opinions too. It's just you want to have that creative interchange.
And sometimes these things are harder in smaller congregations, because we feel that anxiety around numbers a little bit more acutely. If you're at a larger congregation, well, oh my goodness, we've gone from 350 to 300, but yet we're still 300, right? But a smaller congregation feels those things, I think, a little bit more sensitively. And so it is easy to stray from mission because your other things seem to be just more about survival.
Yeah. Who addresses the group? Board president. I always think, Laura, I always think that the interpersonal stuff between congregants, the minister needs to stay out of it because the minister needs to be the pastor to everyone.
Yeah.
So, you know, with a consulting minister like y'all have, it's a little different just because, you know, it's a contract and, you know, if someone's going to be there 2 or 3 years and it's planned that way, you know, they're pre-fired, right? That's what interim ministers come in and do a lot of that kind of work. But ideally, I think it's our job as congregants to work with each other, and the minister's there to love everyone.
So not the board president either. So if people are coming to the board and saying, well, this is an inappropriate group or this is an inappropriate activity for a group of our church, it's not the board president, it's not the board.
The board, always the board as a whole. The board president should never stand alone on something.
Right. But the board does serve the mission. So
yeah.
I think if something feels out of alignment with the mission, I think the board does need to act, or at the very least discuss.
We also have that kind of thing. We use our committee on ministry sometimes to deal with those kinds of things.
Yep, but they're congregants again rather than the minister, but yep, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So like one example where this sometimes comes up is alcohol at church events. And so there's, you know, I would say there's no right or wrong answer, right? There's a tension. There's between different considerations around that, around insurance, around people who are in recovery, around, you know, all sorts of things. So there's, you know, sometimes it just has to be a conversation and you have to just be in the discomfort of working through it and finding something that makes sense for the congregation. The same thing with cliques and things. It's just really, you know, we live in an adversarial kind of culture.
Yep.
And we really want to be in a relational counterculture. So I think that's a big part of us as leaders is developing ways to interact with one another, that we have a lot more win-wins, both ands. The idea of, I may not get my way, but I'm exploring sociocracy, which you'll be hearing more about probably in the next year. But there's this idea of consent. Yeah, Pat's like, here she goes again with the sociocracy.
No, I just got the book. I'm on board.
Okay,
I'm all
yeah.
in.
Yeah, here. I mean, this is like right on my. Yeah, it's right here.
I got it too.
Yeah, you got it too. Anyway, there's this thing called consent decision making, and people have like their preference, but they also have things that they're okay with. And then there's things that you think are completely outside that you can't live with. And so I think part of the mission conversations is like, what's core? What are things that are related to the mission, and what are things that are outside of mission, and really thinking of it that way. So sometimes an opportunity comes up that may not be the thing that you really want, but it's still within the realm of things that aligns with your mission. And so those are some conversations. You know, opportunities happen, right? And sometimes you want a strategic no, and sometimes it's like, oh, you know, this isn't something we would have, you know, like let's say if another organization wanted to partner with you or something, or like congregations that have become sanctuaries for undocumented folks. You know, often it's not like they went out, you know, they did put an ad in Craigslist. Are you undocumented? We're looking for someone, right? You know, there was someone they already had a relationship with, right? So,
chain of events.
yeah. Anyway, so well, thank you. This is great. I want to give us enough time. We say that
Yep.
we end at 8:15, but I wanted to, again, a good process. You always want to reflect and have feedback loops. So I'd like to see if there are any likes and wishes. We changed things up a little bit this time from last time. So those of you who are here at both sessions, if you like the format better, where we basically decided we're going to have a shared experience of the video, so that if not everybody reviewed all the materials or if they weren't fresh, we would have something on the topics that we could discuss. So I want to open the floor for things that you thought went well and things that you wish we would have done differently. You can type in the chat or talk. Go ahead, Sue.
This is Sue. I'll comment. So I wasn't on the previous one, although I have reviewed some of these modules before. Just found them on my own. I thought this approach was good. I think the technology could be slightly better. Pat, sometimes I can't hear you. You're cutting in and out, and I think that's because you're on a laptop without a headset. I've done Zoom calls in another organization where they recommended people be on a smartphone or an iPad or a tablet because the microphones are better on those. But then I found that I wasn't set up to chat because I'm using my iPad, and then I didn't want to be, I had the camera on and I was going to type right on the iPad, so I was turning the camera off. So, that's okay. I can choose to do that or not. But I think it is helpful if everybody is on good quality sound with the headset.
Thank you. Good reminder.
Yep. Yeah. And if you're having trouble hearing, just let us know. This is my 10th Zoom call in the last 2 days, and that's the first feedback I've gotten that my sound might not be working. But things happen. So. We'll work on
it. The sound has been a little problematic tonight. Maybe it's just tonight, but other feedback is that I really like the videos. So those were extremely well done, incredibly relevant and timely and appropriate. So thank you so much for going through the effort to find them and to bring them into this series.
And we'll share the links for those 2 videos with you. But they're teasers for the strategic leadership class too.
I would just piggyback on that a little bit and say that the videos were good, and to be reminded that learning how to listen to people is a spiritual practice.
I also like the videos. I think that you guys have a lot of resources on the website, so it's a little overwhelming. So I like the kind of the real-time holding up of these specific ideas, and then having everybody kind of give their voice. I know not everybody might have an opinion on something, but I also really like facilitators that kind of call out and create space for people who might not otherwise jump in, because that way, you do get to hear a lot of different variety of voices, which is really nice.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. Thank you for your time and your service to your congregations. We'll do another one of these in December. I'm hoping you'll want respite from all that holiday fun and come and join us. I think we'll have been to Boston and back. Is that right, Pat? That's the week when we get back from Boston. So.
I think so. We'll have our cider. We'll all share a cup.
There you go. Yeah, wassail. Bring your wassail with you. But we'll look forward to that, and I'll find a couple more videos to share. I think this format worked well as well. I felt more energized anyway, so that was good. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see y'all in December. Thanks so much.